Where does ChatGPT genuinely help in Excel and where does it just get in the way? In this video, I'll show you the difference. So I have 3 examples here, and I'm going to start with a clip that showcases a situation where AI can really shine. Here's Gina using ChatGPT to clean up some data.
Here's my prompt to tell ChatGPT what I want it to do. Notice that I've also given it a role as well as a clear instruction. You are a data assistant. Convert the following text into a clean table with columns for name, department, and salary. And now I'll paste in the data. ChatGPT recognizes the pattern and presents the data as a clean table with no manual splitting or editing required. That's great, but I'd like an additional column added. I'll add, now calculate a 10% annual bonus and add a column for total compensation. And just like that, you have a bonus column added.
Okay, so that's an example of where ChatGPT is strong. But next we have a situation where expectations sometimes cause frustration. What if you only want to calculate sales over £500? Just describe that condition. Write an Excel formula that shows high value if total sales B2 times C2 are greater than 500, otherwise put standard. It gives you if B2 times C2 is greater than 500, comma, high value, comma, otherwise standard. All right, now that's very good, but the one thing I must point out about this is that in Excel, as I'm sure you know, you mustn't have spaces here. So when I copy this code and switch over to Excel, we'll see if there are any spaces added.
So when I paste it into the formula bar, you can see that in fact ChatGPT has left spaces in here. So that's a cautionary tale there, folks. Please be aware that you do need to take all these spaces out. We do need the double quotation marks because we are pasting in text, so we do need that, but we don't need any spaces. So for example, there's a space after that comma there. Okay, so do be careful with that. Now that now works. Let's just see if that is replicated down the remaining cells, and it is. That's excellent.
Okay, so what about Copilot? Inside Excel itself, Copilot behaves differently. What I'm going to do is right-click on one of the cells in my table and go down to Copilot Suggestions. And in here, you'll see some presets. So suggest a formula column, suggest conditional formatting. This is the one I'm going for, summarize using a pivot table or chart. So I'm going to click on that. There's the chat window opening up now. I'm going to choose this one, summarize using pivot tables or charts. ChatGPT may take a moment or two. So here we are. We have actually got copy now. So here's the pivot table. So I'm going to add that to a new sheet. And there we are. We've now got our pivot table inserted. Okay, I'll just rename that sheet pivot and hit enter. And now I just want to ask Copilot to add a pivot chart. And you can see that Copilot is working there by the change of color in the background. You can see it's quite slow today. That's very, very busy, isn't it? That's no good. I'd quite like a bar chart. Let's say OK to that. OK, so we've got our chart. I'll just make some changes to this. I don't need the grid lines. I don't need the title. It gives us a little bit more breathing room. Okay, that's a bit better. Put the region over there. That's better. Let's make that a little bit smaller so that we can fit it on a single page. In fact, I'll slide that down a little bit and we'll pop it on there. And I'm going to add a slicer. So if we go back to the pivot table, I'll put a little slicer in there and we'll filter by region. And we can also filter by product. So just like we had earlier on, we've now got our regions in a slicer there, and we've also got our products. And in fact, the product, I'll make that 3 columns. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so let's just shrink that up a little bit and so that we can see the chart as well. Okay, so we can now filter this in real time using the slicer, which I think is wonderful. So there we go. 3 examples of using AI with Excel to demonstrate that it is powerful when you understand what it can and cannot do. Use it to interpret, to suggest, and accelerate, but your Excel skills still matter, and it's a combination of both where the real value is. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for news of my latest videos. There's a discount coupon link to my Udemy course in the description, so thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.